Greetings, friends. Jacque Howard here. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes of your time to spend it with me and with the awesome human beings that I bring to you via my podcast, the audio format, video, however you're getting it. And thank you again for all the wonderful encouragement that you all are sending, whether it's through email, social media, messenger, or even on the streets and in person. Thank you so much. Blessings for all those wonderful things. With that being said, I'm pretty stoked right now because I've got a fellow journalist who's doing some things that I'm going to let him explain exactly what he's doing. But he's come onto the scene, at least on my radar, with a lot of ambition, a lot of really good work, great recommendations, etc. And I think that as a society, we must encourage people to communicate more. And because we have to encourage people to communicate more, we have to have a diverse variety of who's doing the communicating. So it doesn't always need to be Jacque Howard. There's a lot of other people out there who are distributing great information, collecting information, telling stories, etc. And one of those folks is Kenneth Miles. So I'm bringing Kenneth Miles on. Kenneth, thank you so much, man, for some of your time. I know that over the years we've been trying to connect, and that's just the way life is.
Yeah.
We're busy. We got stuff that's going on, and there's not going to be any grass that's going to grow around us. So thank you for this time. I'd like for you to introduce yourself to the Trenton 365, Jacques R.E.A.C.H, Library Boxes of Trenton, Trenton 365 Performing Arts, Bridge the Vote, all the different things that I'm a part of. I'd like for you to formally introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are.
Before I do that, I just want to say that was a hell of an introduction that you gave me. I'm like, damn, like, how do I follow up with that? Thank you, Jacque. But for those who may not be familiar with me and my work, my name is Kenneth Miles. I'm the founder and publisher of the Trenton Journal. We are a online newsletter that I created about 2 years ago to address some of the information gaps within the city, as well as to help change the narrative a bit of the city. And I wanted to highlight some of the positive voices in the community who are doing great work.
Now, when you talk about city, well, where's your hometown? Where were you born, and why Trenton? Because most of the times what we generally hear is that people are anxious to get out, or Trenton is a transitionary situation for a lot of folks. Well, Kenneth Miles, where are you from, and what brought you to Trenton?
All right, Kenneth Miles. I am born and raised in Jersey City. Proud to be from Chilltown. I spent a lot of time in Newark. I had a business in Newark for a number of years, went to school in Newark. But why Trenton? I get that question a lot. So, and I actually wrote about it in my very first column that I created for the Trenton Journal. And it was called Why I Decided to Invest in Trenton. And Trenton has a lot of good memories to me because I have family here. And I haven't seen my family in years. I believe I still have some cousins who live here who I'm trying to connect with. But I remember as a young boy, maybe like 5 or 7, coming to Trenton, getting on the train at North Penn Station, coming over here, having my cousins pick us up, and going to their house and just having a good time on the 4th of July, lighting firecrackers and you know getting soda out of the ice bucket and playing with my cousins. So I have a fond memory of Trenton. And when I was looking to buy a house for my family and I, a couple of people kept saying Trenton, Trenton. It wasn't on my radar at all, but I was like, let me give it a try. And you know, when I looked the first house, I was like, nah. But the second house I looked at, my daughter, she fell in love with the place. I'm like, and to me, it solidified what I was looking for. I was looking for a sense of community. I didn't want to just move into a place where I didn't speak to my neighbors. Trenton has a lot of history, beyond the fact that my cousins are from here, and I hold those memories with me. But it's rich in history, and at the time, believe it or not, was everything what I was looking for. Like I felt when I came here, like this was home. Like I wanted to come to a place where people know my name. It felt like Cheers.
I love that. That is, I think, a good summary, because a lot of people have this idea or this thought about Trenton and New Jersey being a certain way. like hard, gruff, tough to get involved, almost like a very blue collar ish type of a town. But you were able to kind of bypass through all of that and all the things lined up, like, the house that you were looking for, the investment opportunity, the community that you were looking for, oftentimes not words or terms that are associated with Trenton. Um, Outside of Trenton, Mercer County, yeah, you'll hear it all the time. Hamilton, Ewing, Lawrence, or if you want to go, big boy, big girl stuff, you can go Princeton, West Windsor, Hopewell, those types of things. But for you, it was different. You also touched on the word community multiple times, like, and how important that was to you. I want you to kind of weave this picture of what community means to you as a resident, but also what it means to you as far as communication in your work, because they're kind of married together.
Community to me is everything. And I didn't realize I kept using that word, but it's who I am, right? Again, like I told you where I'm from, I'm originally from Jersey City, and I'm talking about I grew up in Jersey City where the city wasn't considered a place to be, wasn't in vogue when I was growing up in Jersey City. And just to see where this is a random conversation, right? That I had about a week or two ago. I'm at this dinner and don't know anybody, just feeling awkward. So I'm at the corner and this tall guy comes up to me. He's just walking on, like, he looks familiar. And he's like, "You mind if I sit down? I need to tie my shoe." And I'm like, fine. I realized it was former Governor Tom Kane, or something like that. So he and I were talking about Jersey City and talking about Trenton. And I'm just like, this is really random, right? But he was telling me about, like, when he was governor, he was trying to develop Jersey City into what it is right now. So I'm just like, okay, for me, I have evidence of how a city can turn around and be economically viable, and have a strong community for its residents. If that makes any sense to you.
No, it really does. And I think that, well, I know for sure, because I've been fortunate enough to be involved in some things that have taken place in Jersey City recently, last several years, and seeing what Mayor Fulp has done and the team that's there and the staff and all the directors and things. There's a mindset to that. And I'm glad you touched on that, because that's sort of what you feel like. You grew up experiencing that. Yeah, the community can change for the better and become nouveau riche, so to speak, or in vogue. So you coming to Trenton is more of an opportunity for your eyes to be wide open, like, yo, this is opportunity. It's small. I can get involved. I can know key people.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
have access to the leaders of the government if I ask some questions. It's a wonderful opportunity, I think, for people who have that vision. Um, and I want you to tell about what led you into writing, because this is something that I think is not for everyone. I had no idea I was going to be doing this type of stuff. I not even on my radar at all. But I know for other people, it's been a passion that they've had since they were long, far back as they can remember, whether it was interviewing people, talking to people, writing, journaling, etc. Can you touch a bit about on, like, your history and what brought you to this point of being, such a well-recognized journalist?
Well, I started at a very early age. I was probably maybe one of the youngest people to write for my hometown newspaper, the Jersey Journal. At 15 years old, I started writing a weekly column, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I felt like I was doing something that God wanted me to do. Like, that was my thing. I'm not um good at basketball, and I'm not, I wasn't really into school, I wasn't, but like writing, that was my thing, right? I wasn't into video games, but that was my way of communicating. And then I'm aging myself, but this was like before the internet and everything else. And I remember, and I still got this letter to this day, and I'm talking about years. It was a woman who lived in Bayonne, and she was like 83 years old. And she wrote me a letter, and she told me how much she enjoyed reading my work. And then I found value in not only communications, but in words, right? community in my voice. You know, a young Black man in high school at that time, somebody's listening to what I had to say. So, you know, I went from there, and, you know, had the opportunity to get some internships like at Rolling Stone, and my dream job was, you know, becoming an editor at the Source magazine. And that was like college, you know, during the early 2000s for me.
I'm smiling because, in my mind, I'm not sure of age wise where we are, but I remember, many of those things that you were talking about. And I'm just imagining what that must have felt like as a Black man, a man of color, being in these spaces with such cutting edge, supposedly the people who are music and entertainment and all those things. And then being able to get to the space where you're the editor at the Source magazine, and which I think most people will say back in the day, it was it.
It was the hip hop Bible. Like, man,
It.
listen, I had a really good time. It was just a lot of intelligent Black and brown people just doing our thing, and having ownership of our culture and telling our own stories. And again, and that also taught me the importance of telling your story. Right. And it's one of the things that I created in the Trenton Journal, and it's called telling your Trenton story. And I'm very proud of that. I'm really proud of working with some of the young writers within the city, some high school students, and helping them to find their voice, and tell readers how it is living in Trenton and what's going on in their 16, 17, 18-year-old lives. The same way I had that opportunity.
I want you to drill down on that, but I also want you to give a shout out to some of those folks and entities coming up, like when you were a young person, when you were still trying to figure what this all meant. Your familial support, anyone like that who you'd like to give some special attention and shout out to.
Well, there's this one teacher who I just recently was doing some research online and just found that she passed away, but her name was Miss Page. Believe it or not, it sounds fictitious, right, for her name to be Miss Page. But I had her in 7th grade, and she would come in, and went to a Catholic school, and she was part of this writing group or writing class, and she would get like 4 or 5 of us and take us out of class. And I mean, she would play Prince in class. She would talk about poetry. She would talk about just letting us be free, and being creative, and just talk about what was going on in our lives, and what was going on in school. So she was very influential in my life in terms of me wanting to pursue this as a path of writing. And also I have a mentor over at Black Enterprise, Alfred Edmond. He's been he's always been very supportive and in my career. And also got to give a shout out to my mom, because she encouraged me to get into this.
Well, having the familial support is always fantastic. And, the more folks that I talk to, I realize that many of them who are successful at an early age had someone in their family who was very encouraging, someone who had a similar talent or encouraged their talent. So I'm glad to see that you're doing that, like even now here in Trenton, your new hometown. And you're sharing it, with youth writers and offering them support and edification, which is, something I think that we also oftentimes miss as people of color. You kind of, I guess, serendipitously answered my question, like about like youth that I had playing in my mind. But I want to transition and talk briefly, and I don't want to put you on the spot as a journalist. But I want to talk a little bit about the Trenton politics and the elections that are coming up November 8th. And I want to do this again from a journalistic perspective. You don't need to say anything. Everyone knows we're not endorsing anyone. Where do you feel we play a role in distributing information to the people about the people who want to lead us?
Great question. And I was expecting this to come up, so I don't feel like I'm being put on the spot at all. I think that we have a responsibility. and specifically in Trenton. Trenton is a news desert, you know. Yeah, and it's like you said in the intro, you can't have enough people writing and chronicling our lives and what's going on in government, especially government, you know. Without that, uh, and I got to back this up. I'm actually in school right now. I'm taking I'm studying for my master's in West Virginia University.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's just kicked my butt, you know, between family and everything else. But I believe that you should always stretch yourself and keep learning. And this business has changed from when I first got into it. You know, people don't read magazines or newspapers anymore. Everything's on the internet. But I was reading, like, when you don't have a media outlet or newspapers in a certain town covering news, you're going to pay more in taxes. It's going to be, you're going to have less government oversight. It's going to impact us in so many different ways. But I feel like it's my responsibility. And I will tell you this, Jacque. So I've never been someone who's been into politics, believe it or not. Like, I love music, um, in the movies, politics. It was only until I got here.
Mm.
And I will tell you that. So one of the first things I, spoke to my neighbors, and everyone who I spoke with before I moved here said, Trenton is wonderful. You will love it here. But they will whisper. And it was like, but city council, and that just sent me as a journalist down a rabbit hole. And I was like, okay. And I started watching the meetings. And then what really led me to covering this election right now is the fact that when I looked at 2018, and I couldn't find too much information on a lot of candidates. I'm like, well, how do you get elected if you don't have a website, you don't have a photo? I'm like I couldn't believe it. So I'm totally fascinated about politics and how government is ran right now and how people are elected. I'm learning a lot. But it's not about me in my opinions. I just want to inform people who's running and let them make the decisions for themselves. I think that's my responsibility. My opinion, it doesn't matter. I just want people to vote because the numbers in 2018, the number of registered voters who came out and voted, it was so small, dismal. And then, in it's numbers like that will keep the city from moving forward in so many different ways.
Fantastic. Kenneth, I love how you explained that and answered the question too. I think it was clear that it's more than just a passion and a calling to be a writer, but you got investment, you got a family, you've got a home that you've purchased, that this needs to work for that. And I think more of us need to take that bit of a mindset, instead of trying to do what we can to get out of Trenton to go to some other glorious place to be. Might as well put that effort and the work in right here,
Can I ask
in
you
the
a
city of Trenton.
question? Are
Sure.
you from Trenton? Born and
Yeah.
raised?
So yes, I was born in Trenton. I was raised in Ewing Township and lived in Ewing all through high school. And after college, moved back to Ewing. And then my wife and I bought a house that we're in today here in Trenton, Franklin Park.
All right.
Yeah.
It's great that you're here. But if everybody keeps leaving, who's going to hold things down for the people who can't afford to move? That's what I always wonder. Not everyone can move out. And if that's your mentality, we're never going to go anywhere. And I do what I do, and I mean this with all my heart. It's for the people who I don't know. I read about these young kids who are murdered. I read about these young kids who are like being jumped in school. I read about people who are living next to abandoned homes, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Absolutely. Kenneth Miles of the Trenton Journal is who I'm speaking to. And we're going to make sure that when this is shared, that you'll have all the contact information to reach out to Kenneth at the Trenton Journal. I want to say this personally, in finishing up about our current state, as in just a few examples. During this time of year, throughout the country, there are more people who come into arenas for a football game than the total population of the city of Trenton. There's no reason why we can't figure this out. We have everything we need. It's a matter of people working together, in my own opinion.
No, I definitely agree. And then and to be honest, some people don't want, some people are good with the status quo because it benefits them.
Thank you. See, Kenneth, fantastic.
Am I
Trenton Journal.
saying something I'm not supposed to say?
No, you're not. You're actually
All right.
spot on. But what I would like to say is this is how I like to finish up and to tease folks and tell them that this is why it's important for them to get in contact with me and my guests who are on so you can hear more. The 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, time here isn't enough time for you to get in depth in what we're talking about, which is why there's ancillary opportunities for you to reach out to us. Kenneth, share your contact information and the best way that people can reach out to you, and then I'll close this out.
You can reach me at Kenneth@TrentonJournal.com. That's the best way if you have any questions or any story ideas. Just let us know how we're doing, and I would definitely appreciate if people can go to TrentonJournal.com, the website, and subscribe.
Fantastic. Kenneth, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And I can't wait to have you come back and for us to meet in person and talk about some of this stuff over some food and some of the wonderful stuff that's happening here in the city. Okay.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
You got it. And folks, it's that simple. We got to do this together. I mean, we often have these ideas of knights in shining armor and something coming in that's going to fix everything, that magic, whatever. Well, that magic's in all of us, the 83,000+ who are in the city of Trenton and all the other ancillary communities around. We have to do this ourselves. And if we get to a point where we're trying something and it's not working, we have to persevere. There's too many people who have done things for us to get to this point, for us to drop the ball, forget the baton, or not pass it on forward. I'm Jacque Howard. Make sure you get in touch, jacquesreach.com. In closing, remember, it's always about justice, peace, and humility.